Hey, and welcome back to Ontario Cryptids. I hope you're all having a great day. I would like to wish all my fellow Canadians a happy Thanksgiving. That's right, this weekend Canadians will be having their turkey dinner, hopefully with some family members or friends. Now, this comes on the heels of another COVID-19 closure announcement. Here in Ontario, restaurants, gyms, theaters, are all closed for the next 28 days. I hope this story will take your mind off the current situation. Today's story comes from the state of New York. Just a reminder, if you have a story that you would like to share, then forward your encounter stories to ontariocryptids@gmail.com. And if you're enjoying these encounter stories, then hit that like button and subscribe. Also, hit the notification bell so that you can stay up to date with all my latest uploads. Okay, let's get started. So go grab your favorite beverage or snack and sit back and relax. All right, this story takes place in the fall of either 1985 or 1986 in Broome County, New York. This story takes place while the witness was taking their dog out for a walk. Let me set up the environment, what the area around their property looks like. Our property is composed of fields that have grown in and woods. A creek runs through the property, and where the sighting took place, the creek has worn the rocks down so that the creek bed is a good 4 feet below your feet. Where I was standing was about 50 yards down the house, which could not be seen. Also, the land goes down a slight hill. The area I'm referencing, I consider part of our lawn, and it is mowed. The woods directly across the creek are pretty thick and something can disappear really quick. Our property is in a very rural section of the county. Across the road from us and off a little way is a large swamp. There is also a large swamp that is at the beginning of the creek, but that is a good mile away from us. There is also a creek in the front of our property, but that is really just a runoff creek. This occurred while I was standing enjoying the view of the woods not far from my house. I had my dog with me, and I was not actually in the woods myself, but across the creek from the woods. Whatever it was just a sighting. Nothing was found, nothing was heard. I saw a bipedal creature from the waist down. The rest of it was hidden by leaves and trees. The legs that I saw were quite stocky and were not bent in any way. The hair was quite long. I would say maybe 4 or 5 inches long. The color was a golden reddish brown. As I watched, whatever this was appeared to know that I had seen it because it turned slowly and took a few steps and disappeared in the underbrush. I had been standing there with a grip on my shepherd's collar, thank goodness, but the dog never noticed anything. The creature made no noise and was perhaps 100 feet from me across a 4-foot deep creek bed, almost dry. After this, I did not go in this section of the property for about 6 years. I have never told anyone about this. I have never seen anything since this one sighting, and I will probably never know what it was. I don't think it was a bear standing on 2 legs because the legs appeared to be too long and too straight up and down. Great story. Thank you so much for submitting this one. And I have to say, it's surprising that the dog didn't pick up on anything. But as the witness stated, there was no sound. As this creature was walking through the woods, there was nothing, no sound, And maybe that's why the dog didn't pick up. But you think the dog would pick up a scent, some scent, unless the wind was blowing in the opposite direction. Anyways, let's move on to the next story. Story number 2 takes place in the fall of November 10th of 1979 in Ontario County, New York. This was years ago. I'm 55 now, but when this happened, I was 14. My father worked with a guy who had some prime property in Naples, New York. Being that I was 14, I was not old enough to have a hunter's license, so my father let me go with him, and I had the task of pushing the deer to him. We got to the property just before daylight. Dad went about 200 yards up the road, and I went the opposite way, and I went into the woods. It started getting light out, and I remember that it was real cold that morning. It had snowed the day before, but there was only patches of snow on the ground. I had been walking through some thick sections of the brush and was getting tired. I was walking in a shallow gully with 20 feet ridge on both sides of me. I walked up the ridge, I believe, to my left. There was a large tree laying down, so I sat down with my back against it. I could see pretty clear the whole area. I guess I dozed off for a bit. I woke up hearing what sounded like a large branch had snapped. I looked to my right and then to my left, but as I looked to my left, panning the view, I saw something on the opposite ridge across from me. There was this large dark figure just standing there turned my way. It had heavy fur like hair all over it. I couldn't make out a face because it had long tangled hair hanging down. Now this figure was maybe 30 feet away, give or take. Being cold as it was, I remember it breathing through the hair in front of its face. That really creeped me out. I sat there up against that tree with my heart racing out of my chest, afraid to move. This went on for a few minutes, feeling like a lifetime. Then all of a sudden, it took one step towards me. I think it was its left leg. That's when I jumped up, turned, and ran as fast as I could. I remember I had run into a high fence line earlier that morning that took me some time to scale. Well, I jumped through this area of the fence from total terror of what might be chasing me. I managed to get to the road and ran full sprint to the car, which was a ways down the road. The car was locked. That's when I looked around, but nothing was after me, thank God. I waited about 2 hours and finally saw my dad walking down the road. He was pretty upset with me, leaving the woods as early as I had, but I told him what happened and what I saw, and he didn't believe any of it. He figured I was just cold and tired and making it up. I had never heard of Bigfoot when I was 14. I didn't know what it was, but I know for a fact that it wasn't a bear. This figure was dark brown, but lighter colored around its shoulders and thighs. Its arms were, I thought, too long for its body. I figure it was at least between 7 to 9 feet tall. It had to weigh 400 or 500 pounds at least. Later, from reading some accounts, people said it smelled bad, but I didn't smell any odor that I remember. Well, here's a great and frightening story. I do want to thank you for submitting your story. Also, I want you to know that on this channel, we all believe you. We all do believe that you have seen a Bigfoot. I'm curious, though, whether you and your father ever discussed this sighting later on in life. I'd be curious to know, whether he believed you later on. Anyways, on that note, I do want to say once again, happy Thanksgiving to all Canadians who will be celebrating their Thanksgiving dinner this weekend. So again, gobble gobble, Enjoy your feast. Enjoy your family or friends, whoever you are gathering with. And I hope you have a great time, because the next 28 days is going to be pretty closed up again, not being able to do certain things. But let's not talk too much about that. So if this story reminded you of an encounter that you may have had and that you would like to share, then please forward your stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. Your stories can be as anonymous as you would like, and I'd love to hear from you soon. Have a fantastic turkey dinner, and we'll see you all next week.